Hey everyone, welcome to the Wednesday afternoon live stream. Where's my darn, hold on. I'm having an issue here. Let me get my meters here. Oh, here we go, yeah. Alrighty, hey everybody, what's going on? We've got Kit here. There's Kit, and we have Harper. Oh, hold on, I forgot to turn on this camera. Hold on, Harper. Oh my God. Okay, switch over to that camera now. Let's see if we got... Oh, yeah, there he is. Oh, what's that? Hold on. Leave it there a second. I got an extra camera. Yeah, it's been 2 weeks since I live streamed, so I'm a little... there we go. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I've been on vacation, in case anybody's wondering, and I'd thought of live streaming during the vacation. We were on Jekyll Island, which is an island off the coast of South Georgia. But I got down there and my brain kind of just turned all this off and I just ended up riding my bike and hanging out on the beach and kind of forgot about live streaming. So there was no live stream from the vacation, which would have been cool. But I was able to pick up some cool things. For the first time in my life, I actually found cool shells. Look at this. We're going to get to the Q&A in a second, but I just got to show this off. Look at these shells I found. Look at this. There's this guy over there like on low tide and he's looking in these rocks with these oyster shells and he's like, oh... And I go in there and say, just look between the rocks. I got tons of these. I came home with tons of these things. Look at this. I've never found good shells. We also found shark teeth on another beach. Me and Wizolfo. And I've been giving these away as gifts. Yeah, lots of shells. I also, during the vacation, did my normal thrift store thing. I'm in the thrift store, so I found some prizes. I found this. This will end up on another video or live stream, another little mini amp. This is an Epiphone mini amp. Not bad sounding. Battery powered. Put a little 9-volt battery in there, so I got that. And then I got this. This is really weird. I saw this, and I was like, what the hell is that? Look at this. It's another thing I got when I was down there. Like, I like going to thrift stores in small towns, and this was like Brunswick, Georgia. Was this? Yeah, this is Brunswick. Look at this amp. What the heck is this thing? Look at this. I looked it up online. I did like an image search. I can only find one reference to this amp, and it's coupled with a what was that guitar brand?
Oh gosh, I don't remember.
J something other, but it fits in a guitar case. It's made to fit in your guitar case. This thing sounds terrible in a really great way. It actually works. I got it for $12. It's got a terrible digital tuner on it. So I got that. That'll end up in a video. What else did I get? Oh, yeah. So there was like a Goodwill by the pound. It had tons of Hot Wheels parts, like, because I'm into my Hot Wheels. And, oh, it's changing the color. Look at that. So this is going to go with my Hot Wheels set. I've got tons of Hot Wheels. I've actually have a Hot Wheel track that comes down to the studio from upstairs. And then the other thing, my big sister Amy had found this guitar in a thrift store and she was going to paint it. And she sent me a text. It's like, oh no, save it. It's, I don't know what the brand is. I've seen this in other thrift stores. It's nothing special. It's like, hold on, let me see if I can get it up there. So when I got to the family, it was a family reunion gathering on Jekyll Island. This was like laying on the ground. And she just figured it would be something that I would just mess around with. But I actually kind of fixed this up and put a new tuning peg. And it actually plays. It's out of tune now. I just put new strings on it. But, you know, it might be something to mess around with. It needs a little work. It's got a little bit of a bow here. I'm going to end up, like, getting that thing that you stick in there. I forget what it's called, and it'll kind of level that out. So that'll probably be in a video, too. But, yeah, just another cool little guitar. But, yeah, so today's just going to be a Q&A because I wasn't prepared to really do anything else. So if anybody's got any questions. Oh, there's Maxim K. What's going on? Nice to see you, Maxim. We've also got Casey5181 who helps us mod my streams and also runs the Discord with Kit. Hey, Casey, what's going on? All right, so what we're going to do today is just, I guess we're just going to talk about things. Like if anybody's got questions and, you know, anything you're interested in. Oh, and I was going to announce the next deep dive for the Patreon only live streams, and it'll probably be this weekend. I meant to do it before schedule it before the stream, and I forgot. I'll do it later today, but we'll get that out there because it's been a couple weeks, and I want to get into that because we're going to be discussing low end. And I had people put up questions, submit questions about low end. So we'll be doing that probably this weekend. So yeah. Let's see. Are there any questions? Let's see. Whelks are good to eat. I wouldn't know, Barkful. I just found the shells, but actually Kit was looking up things about whelks and like how they survive and how they attack other shells and all that. It was kind of horrid. Like you look at these things, you're like, oh, cute. And it's like, and then you actually read about how they live. And it's like, oh, these things are like terminators of the sea. It's like crazy.
If you could buy only one electric guitar to have in a studio, what would it be? From David.
Wow, that's a good question. I'm not necessarily recommending this brand, but let me show you something. I mean, I've got more expensive, better guitars, but this is my Bill Lawrence, and I play this on most everything, and I got this in the 80s. And the reason I like this guitar is because even though these look like single coil pickups, they're actually stacked humbuckers. There's a switch here that I can switch. Not quite like a real humbucker, but if I want that thicker sound, I can switch back and forth, which to me is a really big deal. So if I was going to like look for an electric guitar to have in a studio, I'd see if I could find something that allows me to switch between like a single coil and double coil pickup, because that's huge, It just completely changes the sound and characteristic. I don't know how many other guitars are out there that you could do that to. It's not like I really research guitars, but that would probably be the main thing for me. Something that you could do like some rock and roll stuff and maybe like a clean country sound or something like that. Don't necessarily have a particular brand in mind. To me, it's more about the function, because everybody's going to feel differently about the guitars, like how it feels. So I'm just thinking about the function there. Let's see. Somebody says, what is your best piece of gear to clean up muddy mixes? From Hopper Jacob on Instagram. I wouldn't say I have a particular piece of gear like to just clean up a muddy mix. I don't actually do much EQ on the Master Fader. I look for the things that are muddy, individual tracks, and clean them up there. And, I've been mixing so long that for me that's kind of easy to figure out. But when I was starting, there would be sometimes like, God, I don't know what it is. And the best thing I can suggest is you're working on a mix, and if it seems kind of muddy, start turning off stuff. Start turning off stuff till you hear something go, oh, God, it's there, or it's a combination of these things, and then start messing around with the EQ on them. But I don't actually have one particular thing. I don't think I've EQ'd a Master Fader in probably 10 or 15 years, just because I tend to focus on the individual tracks. But generally speaking, it's going to be a lower mid-range type thing. 400 hertz on kick drums and a lot of other things is something that I get rid of a lot. Although I'm working on this 20-song album for the String Dusters, and I'm having to boost 400 hertz because that's a whole different game.
Got a couple of related questions.
Okay.
What were the first chords you ever learned? And then someone else asked, what is your favorite chord ever?
The first chord I ever learned when I took my first lesson was a C, but doing it like this. Let me see if I can get this in the shot. Yeah. Like you're just doing the top 3 strings. So it's like, ooh, this is out of tune. And then C and whatever this is. That was it. What would that be, like a G7? Yeah, G7. And I went home that day and wrote a song with those 2 chords. And then the next lesson I went to, they's like, okay, now we're going to teach you a 3rd chord. And it was a D, doing it like this. And it was I had this terrible guitar with terrible action on it. Like you had to really press down the strings. And this was so hard to do. It was so hard to press down, but also to get my fingers in the right position. I cried. I thought like, I'm never going to learn how to play guitar because this seems so hard. But yeah, those are my first chords. As far as my favorite chord, I don't know what this is, but it's so it's like a E minor, and then I'm pressing down on the E string on the 2nd fret. So that'd be like what, a 9? E minor 9 or something like that. I don't know. I don't know music theory. That's my favorite chord. And I use it in a song I wrote for Crystal called Valentine's Day.
Do you ever parallel compress?
Mainly on drums. I parallel compress drums all the time, like live drums. It's about the only thing I parallel compress. I've seen people do it with vocals, which always seems kind of wacky to me. It's just like, just put the compressor on. Drums seem to be something that I do it on all the time. And so I run all the drums into like an auxiliary returner, its own master, and then I make a copy and I compress the hell out of it. But yeah, I do that a lot. I think maybe, trying to think other situations where I might have done it, but those would be so rare I wouldn't even say it. It's just mainly on drums.
Somebody says, I'm new here. Do you have a preferred instrument by choice?
I like playing the mandolin. Like for me to play, like I like playing the mandolin. That's my favorite instrument to play. I'm actually not a good instrumentalist on anything, but I'm definitely not a great mandolin player. But I love playing mandolin. There's just something about it that I really like. And I love playing bass. It's like two extremes, you know, less strings, massive strings, more strings, teeny strings. So bass and mandolin are my favorites. Mandolin, I don't know, there's just something about it that's really enjoyable. Chronic Dream, thank you so much. Bass I like because I love low end and I love rhythm section. I like working with the drummer. And I've played bass in quite a few bands. Like sometimes my clients will have gigs and, you know, people that I produced, and usually they're hiring studio bass players and then they go out and do a gig. So I'll go out and learn the parts and play them.
So who is your favorite band, and who is the most famous band or musician that you've worked with?
My favorite band would have changed over the years. When I was a kid, it was Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and then The Who. And then, you know, I got really into Prince for a while, Peter Frampton. Lately, I went through this one period where I was really into Elbow. I think Elbow's from Scotland. Lately, it's this actually ties into a video I'm getting ready to put out. I had that one big video where I'm talking about why music all sounds the same. And then people called me out and said, oh, you should listen to this and this and this. And I did another video where I talked about the bands that people were talking about and how I listened to them and I liked. That got a lot of new comments. So now I've been listening to this new music. So I really like McGee, I think is how you say his name. It's not a band. He's an artist. Absolutely tripping on that. I really like The Warning. Everybody's The Warning, The Warning, The Warning. And I'm going to say this in the video because I'm going to make a video about some of these bands. I listened to The Warning and I appreciated them, but I thought the record sounded kind of lame. Like they're good, but it just sounded clean. And then I listened to some of their live stuff and I was like, oh my God, live? Like, I don't know. They're just cleaning up the studio stuff too much. The live stuff was just absolutely incredible. I also like, I'm going to say this wrong. King Gizzard and the Wizard Lizard. Harper, did I say that right?
King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
King Gizzard
And the Lizard Wizard.
and the Lizard Wizard. I love them. I've really been getting into them. And then for a long time, of course, Todd Rundgren. It's hard to say if I have like a one-time favorite band or artist, you know. And was there another part of that question?
The most famous artist or musician you've worked with?
The most famous artist or musician I've ever worked with. Well, I worked with Little John a lot, Yin Yang Twins, mostly rap.
I mean, you mixed for, God bless it, the guy in the movies and...
Oh, Will Smith. I worked with
Smith.
Will Smith, which was cool because a lot of people don't realize that Will Smith, they know him as an actor. He started as a rapper. I mixed some stuff for him. That was actually a lot of fun. Super nice guy. Done some work with the band Rehab. They're not as famous, any of them, but they're not, you know, necessarily rap. And, you know, on the bluegrass side, the infamous String Dusters. But my biggest artists were like rappers. I mean, I'm thinking the most famous, I guess, is Little John. I did some stuff for... I can't remember these people. He's like really famous. I can't remember his name now. I did a bunch of that stuff. It all just blur, you know, Bone Crusher, of course, and all that.
I mean, Yin Yang Twins, they're pretty...
Didn't I mention Yin Yang Twins?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chronic Dream. You rock.
Oh, thank you.
Do you like to play a 12-string, and do you have any favorite guitar makes?
Yeah, I've got a Dan Electro 12-string over here. The electric. Actually, go to the right camera. I think they can see it in the background there. Yeah, you see it hanging up there over there.
It's the white one.
Yeah, over by Harper there. Yeah, I like that a lot. I would love to have a 12-string acoustic. I can't say there's a particular make. Like I said, I mostly play this one here, this Bill Lawrence, but I'll show you this guitar here. Hey, can you hand me that red telly right there? Oh, you gotta, yeah, now spin it. There you go. Just yank it out of there. This kind of goes back to what somebody was saying about, like, you know, if you had to pick one guitar. This is a Korean-made Telecaster that just showed up at one of my other studio. It was there for years, and I thought somebody had left it. And he's like, no, that's always been, I don't even know where this came from. It's got a through-body neck. It doesn't sound great, but it is literally like the best playing guitar, like the way it feels when I play it. I love this guitar. I will use this sometimes on songs, not because it sounds good, but because I just play the part better because I like the way it feels, which to me is way more important. On the other hand, I've got like, here, switch that on. Hand me that, the Heritage. Yeah, I just got to yeah, it's awkward. This is probably my most expensive electric guitar. This is a Heritage electric guitar, which is ooh, it's way out of tune. A copy of a Gibson. The Heritage is basically founded by the people who bought the old Gibson factory and all the tools when they moved, and it's basically like a Les Paul. This thing sounds great. It sounds like a vintage Les Paul. Love the sound of it. I don't like playing it. It just doesn't feel right. I don't know. The weight, and I don't know. I can never feel comfortable playing it, but it sounds great. I always feel like there's a balance between.
Ooh. Ouch.
Oh, it was the cheap guitar. It was the free acoustic. There's a balance between the sound and like the feel, you know? I feel like you can get really caught up in some of the details, but to me it's like, do you like playing it, you know? Let's see.
Oh, wait. We have several folks that are curious about what camera you're using for that side angle shot.
Over here? Oh, that's a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K.
There's a reason it looks so good.
Oh, don't tell me that did the thing stop working?
It did, unfortunately.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Alrighty, my Stream Deck controller. I think it's because we're on Instagram too. Sorry, Harper.
No,
Okay.
With that other one
What was
back.
damn? Oh yeah. So yeah, go to the right shot there.
If I can find it. That's what I've been looking for.
Oh, it's. Oh, I did change the.
I have a different name.
Sorry, he's having to do this by.
Might be this one.
No, it's gonna be. Hold on, everybody. We're like having a problem here.
Somebody asked if Billy did the Whisper song. Yes, he did.
Well, no, actually, Joel mixed that.
Joel mixed it.
So there were.
It came through the zone then.
Yeah, so the Yin Yang Twins were at the studio, and my assistant engineer, who was like recording vocals, prepped the song for me. I was trying to get his stature up, and he said, should I hand you this mix? I'm like, man, why don't you just put that out as your mix? It sounds. I gave him some tips and said, hey, do this and this and that. It's a couple things, and he did it. And I had him put it out so that he could like get a big credit. I didn't realize it was going to be such a big hit. But hey, I wanted to give him his props and let him so we could like raise his rates. And then he quit on me. So last time I'm going to do something like that.
God.
Yeah, anyway, it's oh my God, this is driving me nuts. Hold on. It's got hold on, I'll figure it out. Hold on, Joel. God, sorry, Harper. Jesus, no, I'm still mad at him. Like I gave him that damn mix. You put it out, and then he quit on me. Son of a. Okay, hold on. That is. It's called.
Now the Stream Deck has your face on it.
The Stream Deck's completely freaking me out. Hold on.
The Stream Deck hates Instagram.
It's going right.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Instagram. There's a reason that we haven't really been streaming over there. It's
Yeah, I can't tell which one
glitchy
it
as
is.
Glitchy
I don't even know if we
AF.
can get to the right shot anymore. Just like, I guess just click on a bunch of them. But anyway, it's a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K. It's the best camera I got in here.
Let's see.
Oh, and I meant to mention, by the way, Soul Machine's on here. Soul Machine, I hope you heard that I played your song on the intro, and anybody who was here during the first 3 minutes of the live stream, when I have the starting screen going, I was playing a song called Boat Bell Journey, which is by Soul Machine. He was the winner of the first place for the best use of samples for my sample song contest #1. And I'm going to start. Oh, it's working now?
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. We'll go to the right camera then. There we go. Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K. But yeah, I'm going to, and I would like to say to anybody here that was in the sample song contest, if you would like me to play your songs during the starting screen, let me know. Send me an email so I know I got permission. Just make sure it's not something that you released. Otherwise, I'll get demonetized. If it's not released, I'll play it. I'm just jumping around here with questions. So somebody's asking on Instagram, do you parallel compress all the drum tracks? Yeah, only if it's live drums. I don't really parallel compress program drums unless it's kind of for a particular reason, not anything special. Hey, Mix Club, what's going on?
Here's one. I'd love to hear about your client onboarding process. I'm working on my studio SOP, and I'd love to get some insights. That's from Justin.
Client onboarding. What does that mean? Bringing clients in?
Yeah.
I guess I've been doing it for so long that people just know about me. They call me up and email me. But before that, I'm a terrible salesman. I've never been good at sales. So I never got a gig. In most cases, 99% of the gigs I tried to get, I didn't get. I don't know what it is when I'm trying to convince somebody to do something fuck that, what I did was, first off, I undercut everybody else's rates and just killed it with the quality. And I do a great job. And then people get in there and they realize okay, he's a little weird, but he does a great job. I also had this thing where I did a lot of free work, where I did this for years. I don't really do this anymore, but I would find one band or one artist, that I thought was really good. They didn't necessarily have the money, but I would just record a couple songs for them and just absolutely kill it. I would do whatever it takes to make it sound the best that it could. Specifically, it needed to be somebody that was actually out actively doing something, like they're doing gigs or they're out in the scene and all that. And that sort of thing got me more work than anything, because your best advertisement is people talking about you. I know you can market things and do things, and I never really did any of that. It was just kind of based on the work and meeting people and, just going to events. The funny thing is I would make business cards and pass them out. And I've made hundreds of business cards and passed hundreds of them out. And I can only think of one time that the business cards actually got me a gig. Somehow passing out the business cards, I would get work, but not necessarily from the business card. But I do know that I saw Sound Tribe Sector 9 play in Athens when they were just starting out. And I gave Zach, the drummer, a business card, and he called me up, and I ended up recording and mixing their first album. That's the only actual situation I can think of where a business card did me any good. But yeah, it's just with me. It's just I just get involved in a lot of things. Word of mouth, yes, is the best thing. Ray Gun. Let's see.
When trying to sample, do you know of a way to separate all the stems in one sample? So in case there's something specific that you want, yet can't find a more focused sample for a specific sound.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Oh, yeah. That turned out to be a bit more complicated than I thought.
Station O says, what do you think is one of the best examples of your work from throughout your career? I think the best examples of my work are stuff that people have never heard because the artist completely flaked out and didn't actually put the record out.
So many projects.
God, yeah, heartbreaking. But the stuff that people have heard, Very proud of all the Infamous String Dusters records that I did, which we won a Grammy for the Laws of Gravity album, which is just amazing. We killed that one. The Rehab album, Graffiti the World. You said one. I can't think of one, but listen to the Graffiti the World album. I produced and played and sang and co-wrote some of the songs on there. You can see all the credits on the back. I'm really proud of that. I like a lot of the stuff I did for my rap clients, like, Bone Crusher and Little John, Yin Yang Twins. Very proud of that stuff. But it's kind of hard to pick one album because I've worked in so many genres that it's hard to say. But there is one album that's sitting on a hard drive nobody's ever going to hear, which breaks my heart. And one of the most depressing things that happened in my life. I don't think anybody's going to hear it. I don't even want to say who the artist is. But
we'll see if they ever release it.
Maybe they'll release it one day, which is literally the best stuff I've ever. Red Water. Red Water. So I'm actually doing all the harmonies on Red Water. If you hear all the ooh, that's all me. And then he was laying in a bathtub filled. I'm doing all the harmonies in there. I don't know if I played guitar on that one though. But the song Graffiti the World is my production. I'm playing guitar, program the drums, harmonies, shakers. And then there's a song called Welcome Home. Da, da, da. I played bass, guitar, cello, programmed strings. Probably did harmonies on that too. Is that the same album? I can't remember. Let's see.
I'm over here getting links, so I'm not looking at questions.
Matt, that song Red Water is just incredible. As a matter of fact, I'm supposed to talk to Danny today because we might be working together over the summer.
Maybe a full album with a full band.
Yeah,
we're
supposed to do a phone call later today to talk about doing a whole album with him and the new band.
Soul Machine was curious, do you remember the first time that you ever recorded audio into a computer?
Well, I don't remember the first time, but it would have been a Mac 9600. I had something like 8 gigs of RAM, and it was just, I don't know where it is, but I was using Opcode Studio Pro, which was a MIDI sequencer that you could do on the computer. And then one day my roommate was like, hey, did you know you could record audio onto that? I'm like, what? So I plugged into the 1/8" jack and actually recorded some stuff in that because you could record. The syncing wasn't always great, but that would have been like late 90s, 97, 96, 97, somewhere around there, Let's see. Oh, yeah, the rattle can on Graffiti the World, that's actually that's a spray can
paint
that I sampled. Chicka, 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 chicka. Yeah, I'm very proud of that album. Let's see.
Do you pan a remote high that hangs in the middle of the front of the snare?
Wait,
what? How do you pan a remote high?
Wait, what are you looking at?
Oh, I've been copying comments all along.
Are we
it's
on
probably
Twitch?
Way back.
A remote what? I don't even know what you're talking about. A remote high? I've had a remote high. I ate these gummies. Oh, boy. That was a remote high. Different type, though.
Feeling a little remote?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, where'd it go?
How much is too much? Good question, actually. Over on Instagram from Tajan. I can't say the name. But anyway, how much is too much? Great question, because if you're going to talk to anybody about too much, I'm the guy to talk to because I'm going to put too much in a lot of songs. I'm actually working on a song now that I think has 120 tracks on it. It's just too much. But it's that way because I got rid of sections and then redid them and then kept this, whatever. But I have this theory about that, or this philosophy. You could say how much is too much in two ways. One way would be like adding too much stuff to the song. I like to add a lot of stuff to the song and then start taking things away. It takes a long time to get to the point where you can do that because your pride, when you're younger, you don't want to take anything out because you might have spent 6 hours on something and just to go, it's out of here. It's hard to do, but I don't care anymore. I'll do it anyway. But how much is too much? To me, that's a bigger question about how much time you're putting into something. And it's kind of weird working with people and be like, oh, that's good enough. I'm like, no. My theory with that is that we keep working, whether it's tracking a band or doing vocals or whatever it is, we keep working until it gets worse. It's going to keep getting better. At the point it gets worse, you stop and you go back 1 or 2 takes, and that's usually where you need to be. But how much is too much? In this game, ain't no such thing. There ain't no such thing. Like, you just got to get in there and, there ain't nah.
Lisa Chase Wolf had a follow-up question to when you were talking about getting clients. She says, or they say they're a huge fan of doing favors to get a foot in the door, but also they know people have gotten trapped into doing work for exposure. How do you or anybody looking to monetize decide what to do or not do for free?
Yeah, you gotta, man, that's a good one, Lisa. That's, I don't think I've ever done anything for free for somebody when they offered it. It's like, oh, if you do this for free, I'll get you some exposure. I'm like, nah, but I will usually identify somebody, and it's usually my idea. I can't think of every time somebody's come and said, oh, this is good exposure, it's just usually crap. It might be. I mean, maybe if you're really starting out, you could try it. I think the trick with doing something for free is to tell the person that you're doing it for free for that they can't tell anyone you're doing it for free. Tell them that you got to tell people that they're paying, you can't let anybody know that. But like I said, I've never done anything like that if somebody actually asks, because usually they got some other agenda up their sleeve. So yeah, you got to be really careful about that.
And Mr. Fox is pointing out you keep a lot of intrinsic rights as long as you don't sign anything away. And actually, you need to sign paperwork. So if you do something for free, it is a good idea to ask for points on the work.
Or claim that you make sure that you put it in there that you own the masters.
Yeah. And
don't assume that you own the masters because they didn't pay for it. It's kind of one of those things that's like, it's kind of like accepted, I guess, law or whatever in the industry. Like, oh, whoever pays for the masters owns the masters. Actually, that's not so, unless it's on paper. Like, technically speaking, from what I understand, according to legal law, anybody who participated in the creation of the masters is a part owner unless there's a piece of paper somebody signed and said he owns the masters. That's why it's in there. Now, in my opinion, it's like, hey, whoever paid for it or like covered the cost, they own it. But you actually need to put that, because I kind of got burnt by that in a certain situation. I basically told them I didn't give a shit and kind of got through the whole thing anyway by just being me. But I was schooled by my own lawyer who said, actually, if you didn't have it in the paper, I was like, oh shit, I just thought that was accepted law. So anyway, yeah, but if you're going to do something for free for somebody, actually do get some paperwork. At the very least, say you own the masters. And maybe get a cut of publishing, too.
And Maxim asked, have you ever passed on being credited because the final result was terrible?
Oh, yes, absolutely, Maxim. I've had situations where I'm working with somebody, whether I'm producing or mixing, and they're just like questioning everything. Do this. And I'm like, you shouldn't do that. It's like, look, you're paying me for my opinion. Why do that? And say, okay, I'll do what you want. Take my name off the credits. Can't use my name. I'll do whatever you want, but you cannot use my name. So yes, absolutely. Normally when I say that, people go, oh, never mind, because it freaks them out because they want my name on the credits, and also the fact that I'd be willing to do that. I don't give a shit. I'm going to work on something else. But if somebody's going to do something stupid and try to force me to do something I don't agree with, I know what the hell I'm talking about, and I always have to remind people, look, You think you're paying me to twist knobs. You think you're paying me to like know which microphone. I mean, yes, but ultimately what people are paying me for, whether I'm engineering, mixing, or producing, is my opinion. That's what you're paying me for. So if you don't respect my opinion, the hell out of here. Thanks, Chronic Dream. I appreciate it.
Let's see. How often do you record vocals with multiple mics at once? Not often,
practically
right?
never.
Yeah.
But there's this thing I want to do. Like, you mean just like one vocal? Like if I've got a group of vocalists, like, yeah. But there's this thing I read about, and I now that I got my upstairs living room set up a big room, I want to try this. I'd read this story, and I forget who the engineer was. I mentioned this on another live stream, and somebody remembered. The guy who was recording David Bowie would do this thing. They're in a larger room. They'd have the close mic, and then they'd have a mic further away that picked up more room sound with a gate on it. And when he would hit the louder notes, it would open up that mic and get more room sound. And I thought, God, that's great. Down here, this room's really dead and my vocal booth's dead, but I actually like liver rooms. And that's been something I've been wanting to try. But mostly it's just one mic. You know, I'm not going to do multiple mics on a vocalist because it could create phasing issues and stuff like that. Now, maybe if I want to do an A/B test, you know, I'm just wanting to do it just to hear the difference, but I'm not going to really do it for a final product.
And actually, somebody else was asking, when you're recording instruments and vocals, how much do you focus on the soundstage width and depth, and how do you achieve it if that's something you're thinking about?
I'm completely spaced out there. Where's this question at? I started thinking about the whole gating the mic thing, and I'm actually like, okay, I could put it here. It's like, you were talking to me. Sorry, Kit.
So when you're recording instruments or vocals, how much do you focus on soundstage width and depth? And if you are focused on that, how do you achieve it?
I mean, it's kind of more of a mixed thing. Like with a vocalist, I mean, you know, sometimes with acoustic guitar, kind of like with drums, for instance. Like, depending on the song, I've got a big room upstairs, which has been in some of my videos, and I've got massive ceilings, and I can put room mics out and get this explosive sound. I got the smaller room in here that's like a garage I converted, which is like a tighter sound. So I might pick the room based on kind of like what I want to achieve with the song, whether I want a tighter sound or a big sound. And the other place that might happen is like acoustic instruments. Like if I'm doing acoustic guitar and it's a very sparse production, I might put up multiple mics on the acoustic. I've got a 3-miking technique I use sometimes, but if it's a dense production, I won't. But honestly, most of that is kind of something I'm going to do in the mix. I guess, you know, when I'm talking to the client, we're trying to figure out the stage, the sound, and that's actually a good question when you start working on a song. I think I do some of this stuff without thinking about it. I always ask people, like, hey, when somebody hears your record, should it sound like the listener is in the room with a band, like a small room and it's a rehearsal? Or should it sound like they're at a concert in a big hall and they're like 50 feet back or 100 feet back? Or should it sound like you're in a club, right? And then knowing that, that'll kind of inform some decisions I'll make going into it. But there's not a massive difference that I'll do. Usually it's going to be in the mix, and whether I'm using room mics or if I'm multi-miking like an acoustic guitar or like other instruments. But that's mainly a mix thing.
And the question earlier, it was hi-hat, and now I can't find the question. Here's another. How do you pan a remote hi-hat that hangs in the middle in front of the snare? That's from Hector Pamplemousse.
A hi-hat that hangs in the middle in front of the snare. I don't even know what that means. I mean, I will say this. I pan drums from drummer's perspective. I guess because I started on drums, it never occurred to me. This is so funny, talking about like soundstage, like how do you present the mix to the listener? And I always have presented the mix, in most cases, as if I'm in the band. And I was probably doing this for 15 years before I actually listened. It occurred to me like, oh, other guys are panning the drums as if you're listening to the band. It never occurred to me that I would be in the audience because I've always been in a band. So I always pan hi-hat over to the left, you know, ride to the right and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I with a hi-hat mic, I'll do like thanks, Maxim K. I'll do like a really extreme EQ on the hi-hat. Like I'll take out all the low end because you're going to get some hi-hat in the room. You're going to get a lot of there's going to be hi-hat in the overheads and the snare drum, whether you like it or not. But what I'm looking for with a hi-hat mic is the definition, the little tick, 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 tick. So I EQ the fuck out of that thing. I take out a lot of low end and I find a little crisp area and then I pan it over and it's just barely in there. It's one of those things that if you turn it on, you go, oh, and then you turn it off, you go, oh, you know, but it's not super loud.
Here's an important question. How do you take care of your ears while you do this for a living? Taking breaks? Do you get tested? Do
Yeah.
you have any health advice for that?
Well, that's a good question. I mix at a very low volume. As a matter of fact, most of the time I'm mixing, I could be talking like this loud right here, and you would be able to hear what I say. Most of my time I'm mixing. Now, every once in a while I crank up the speakers because I need to hear the speakers pumping, but I do an immense amount of work at a pretty low volume. And that's very important because when you turn up the speakers, you're going to fool yourself. And your ears do weird things where I think your ears kind of like compress or something, or your brain tells, I don't know what the function is. So, you know, now if I'm jamming and I'm having a good time, there's a bunch of clients and speakers get loud. And there's been times I put on headphones. I don't want to have earplugs in, but I'll put on. God, when I started working with Little John, oh my God, those sessions were so loud because they're in there writing and they're jamming. So I just put on headphones without it plugged into anything, and I just look around like, if they wave at me, I'm taking the headphones off. So don't mix for too long. I also take a lot of breaks. Actually, not kind of for hearing, to kind of reset my ears. Like if I walk outside, or I walk upstairs and just turn on the TV or a stereo or something, that's to kind of reset my ears. But I actually started taking a lot of breaks because I was messing up my hands. Like I'd be sitting here on the mouse and I'd have this here for the shortcuts, and I started getting cramps. But the other thing is, when you're not working on music, you should use earplugs whether you're doing anything loud. For instance, if you're hammering something, like I do a lot of woodwork, right? Earplugs, or I have like big earmuffs, right? The volume of a hammer hitting a 16-penny nail is fucking loud, and it'll damage your ears if you do it too much. I used to have a motorcycle and rode all the time. Wore earplugs when I was riding the motorcycle. If I take out my weed eater or my leaf blower, earplugs. When I go to gigs, I don't care who the band is, I'm wearing earplugs at a gig. So that's the thing. And I have a little bit of a dip at 4K from playing drums when I was younger. But by the time I got into my late 20s, early 30s, I started wearing earplugs whenever I needed to. That's very, very, very important. I would, yeah.
We had the question about, is it possible to make a home microphone? Does anybody have tips or resources? And I know there's kits.
Oh, I want to do that so bad. There's when I see the most, it's like mic kits or mic maker or something like that. I really want to make a ribbon mic. I just can't do it after I've drunk coffee because like that. Yeah, I want to make a ribbon mic, and I want to make, yeah. I haven't done it yet. It's on my list of things to do. But yeah, there's, if you go to like Reddit, you can usually find stuff, and there's actually the site I'm thinking of, like, is it Mike Kits or Mike Maker or something like that? They actually sell kits, and you can get them, and that's probably what I'm going to end up doing.
And then also, do you have advice or suggestions about choosing microphones, especially when recording low-end heavy percussion?
I like, actually, this mic here is great for low-end stuff. Low-end heavy percussion. Well, I like this mic. There's a microphone. I need to hit this company up to see if they'll send me a mic if I put it in the video. It's the one that we had in the video with Dave Anthony. It was like from a live stream.
Was that Room ribbon mic?
The ribbon mic, and it was like a live stream we did that was like 9 hours long. I edited it down to an hour-long video. Can you put the link in there?
Yeah.
So it's like a $300 ribbon mic, right? And we're using it as a mono kind of room mic, and I put it out in front of the drums, and I know what that sounds like. And we put his out there, and the low end on that thing was like freaking bonkers. Never heard anything like that. So I want to get one of those. You got to be careful with the ribbon mics, often not to get them too close to the source. But it's actually this is actually a really good mic for that sort of thing. This is a broadcasting mic, but people buy these for like bass amplifiers, and sometimes people use them on kick drums and stuff like that. But probably a dynamic mic or something like that is going to be good. But I would experiment. Try everything.
Is there a relation between audio engineer hair length and skill?
Absolutely. The longer my hair gets, the better I get. Actually, you know why my hair is this long? Because I didn't cut it. I was not going to grow my hair long again. And then one day I looked up and was like, oh, damn, it's doing it again. So I was gonna grow my hair long till I went bald, but I didn't go bald like my dad. Now I'm starting to get a little bit of a spot up here, but I figured like I'll keep going as long as I can so it doesn't look totally ridiculous. Although I catch a lot of hell on my videos. People make comments like, why don't you clean yourself up for your videos? Rick Beato's got his hair all cleaned up. And I'm like, I am cleaned up. You should see me normally. God.
There's a good comment over here regarding volume on mixes from Sup Mellow. Says, I think CLA said if you get the mix exciting on low volumes, it's going to work on loud too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can you make the mix sound exciting at a low volume? And that's it's really hard. That's why I say mixing at a loud volume, you're fooling yourself. Just like it's going to be tough, but you should be able to have a conversation over that volume.
Let's see. I was jumping around getting links. Maxim K asks you, perfect recording versus vibe.
Vibe. Always vibe. Always.
Let's see. We got that one. What excites you the most when it comes to new music products?
I don't actually pay that much attention to new products. Like I'm not out there like looking at all the new stuff coming out. Usually I'm working and I have a need. And then I go looking for something to solve my need or my issue. Or somebody tells me about something and then I do the research and then I buy it and then I completely forget about all the other crap I looked at and I just use it. I'm not really like a gear fanatic. Like, I had a period of time where I really needed some like Neve type modules and I ended up getting these, let's see if I can get this camera here. I mean, this is kind of an example. Whoop. Switch over to this here. So, hold on. I'll show it here. Well, right here. So, these guys, let me turn up the volume here a little bit on this. So I'm talking about these right here. These are my Neve clones. And I just did a bunch of research into them because I needed something that was a lot more Neve-y, right? So I did a bunch of research and I bought these. And I tried out other Neve clones and I liked these, right? But it's not like I was researching and found them and then decided to buy them. I just knew that I needed something for like acoustic guitars or vocals or like room mics. I wanted a pair. I like getting mic pre's in pairs because, I want to be able to like use them like as, for something that I might do in stereo. I don't know if that really answers your question, but... And then I get excited about it, and then I just use it, and then I move on.
A couple of a mild debate about what dB constitutes a low volume.
God, what was it? Rodney Mills told me, and it's actually Rodney Mills that got me doing this. Rodney Mills is an engineer, mixer, and producer. He did Leonard Skinner and all the 38 Special stuff and all that, and I think they moved to Florida recently, but Rodney was getting into mastering and I was going over there and he had a volume meter in there and he was like, oh, you should try to mix at this volume. It was like 80 dB or 75. God, it was so quiet. So I went out and bought the meter and I brought it home and it was like, I don't know if I can mix that low. Oh, hold on, Brandon. I'll get to you in just a second. Appreciate it. So I think it's like 80 dB or it's pretty low. Basically, you should just be able to talk over it, Let's see. What is Brandon Lefton says?
So, I badly desire an acoustic drum kit, but I live in a one-bedroom apartment in a city. I have ideas for soundproofing. I want one with a vintage, jazzy, coated head sound. Do you have tips for acquiring said kit and soundproofing or treatment on a tight budget?
Boy, that's going to be tough. So, Okay, so sound treatment and soundproofing are two completely different things. I could give a crap about soundproofing because I live out here I'm out in the country. Like my nearest neighbor, I couldn't even throw a Frisbee to their house, right? Mm-hmm. And my driveway is like a quarter mile long. So it didn't matter, right? But even when I was living in Norcross near Atlanta, I didn't worry about soundproofing because I was underground. Soundproofing is to keep the sound going out. Sound treatment is how it sounds in the room. Two completely different things. In a one-bedroom apartment, to do drums, like to do soundproofing, you basically have to build a room inside a room. You'd have to float your floors, so you'd have to build another floor that sits up off the floor that you're on. Unless you're on the first floor. You might be able to get away with this if you're on the first floor. But if there's somebody underneath you, you're going to have to build the floor, and it has to be like, on rubber isolators. And then you build walls and a ceiling on that floor that don't touch your existing walls. That's it in a nutshell. If you're on the first floor, you might not need to do that. Like if you're on a concrete slab, then you would just need to build walls and a ceiling around in that room that don't touch anything else. That's basically what you're going to have to do. It's going to reduce the size of the room a lot. And then you can maybe get away with it. That's really the only way you're going to be able to do that in an apartment. Once you get past that, then it's just treatment. But like even here, even though I've got all this room and it's my own house, so I can do whatever I want, I don't have anything, soundproofed. Like my room upstairs, it's just like right back here. I just put it in the living room, and yeah, if like the speakers aren't on, you can kind of hear it up there, but I can hear it through the speakers good enough. My amp room in there, so you have to walk through the vocal booth and then walk into another room, and then my amp's in there, but there's no floating floors in there. Yeah, my amp room's back in there, and you guys have seen this on some other videos. But there's no floating floors or anything like that. I just closed the damn door. I got extra insulation in the walls and stuff like that. It's enough for me to get the isolation to hear it on the speakers. You could spend a fortune, and I think somebody said it here. What did they say? Proofing is almost impossible. Super high budget treatment is very possible. Exactly, Mr. Fox, because you could spend a fortune soundproofing. And to me, it's like, who cares? Like, as long as you're not disturbing your neighbors. Like this little drum room I have back here in the behind me, which is like a garage. Actually, the door back here is terrible. I can hear a lot of leakage. I got to get a new door, but there's no soundproofing. It's just this door. I got to get a thicker door or something like that. But it's enough where I can get the work done. The treatment is the thing. That's why I have a diffuser behind me. I've got diffusers on the side. I've got some padding back here, like thick panels, like back where the speakers are and stuff like that. So that's what you're going to have to do. But I don't know if you're a landlord, if you're in an apartment, if you're going to even be able to do that. There's no way you're going to be able to stop the drums from getting out just by putting things on the wall. It has to be out from the wall.
Yeah, I mean, there were some, Lisa Chase Wolf notes that walk-in closets are a godsend, and Zaniel Franklin says packing blankets, but all of these things have more to do with how the sound is going to sound recorded than it is whether your neighbors are going to be able to hear it.
Yeah. The hell with the neighbors.
But there's actually a question here from Maxim K that was directed at me, asking me, what is the biggest challenge of being with a musician or engineer? And I mean, that's a really hard question to answer, partly because I don't think of it that way. And partly because there's just too much to even begin to talk about.
Well, the other thing too, Kit, like it's a little different. Like, so Kit's been you started coming over and hanging out in my studio when you were like a lot younger.
Yeah.
I think partially is a way to kind of like get away from.
Hey, it was interesting. There was cool stuff going on over there.
Yeah, you were hanging out over there before we were dating.
Yeah, actually quite a while
time.
before we were dating.
So that's all you ever knew me for? That's all you ever saw?
Well, that kind of gets to what I was going to say before you interrupted me. And that is that the hardest thing, but also kind of in a way the most important thing, is that you're not in a relationship with an individual person. You're in a relationship with an entire lifestyle and way of looking at the world. And that's really important for somebody in a relationship with a recording, like a deep into it recording professional or musician, anything like that, any creative career. You know, it could be a visual artist or somebody in theater. All of these things, you're not just in a relationship with an individual person. You're in a relationship with their whole philosophy, existence, their careers. And so you have to approach the relationship with that knowledge and totally in that, because you cannot separate the two. And I think that's the most important thing. And I mean, it's not really the hardest thing for me, but I think that would be the thing that is most critical. The hardest thing? I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess partly coming from that, like, the bleed through from the career and the rest of existence can be tough at times, but it's what I signed up for.
Well, I'm glad you signed your name to that. Let's see what else we got here.
Oh yeah, let's see. I mean, real quick, somebody said, I'm a lover of magnetic tape. How much do you use it? Not much, really.
Now that I got my 16-track working, I got a 1-inch 16-track over here. It's working better now. I had some work done to it. I'm going to be doing, definitely going to do a whole video about recording and mixing completely in analog. There's been some talk about a project I might do with Andy Falco from the infamous String Dusters, maybe this summer, where he comes down and we set up a whole band and we actually record a band on analog and mix it in analog and like do a song a day and release it that night. We'll see if that happens. But I like recording to tape when it comes to drums. I do like the sound. I can actually recreate a lot of that in the computer. I do miss the tape compression. I don't do it so much anymore though, just because of workflow and all that. But sometimes I'll like take stuff that I've recorded in the computer, throw it on the tape and drop it back in once in a while if I want something a little more kind of, fuzzy,
Casey suggests that maybe one of the hard things is how stubborn you are. And I got to say, actually, I'm probably the more stubborn of the two. I think is really the truth. And, I mean, that's both positive and negative. You kind of have to be a little stubborn to be in a relationship with a creative professional, because you have to be able to draw lines where you need to.
Let's see.
Well, I have some other. Let's see. Here's a fun one. What equipment have you been able to prolong the life of by using tape or glue? Quite a few things, actually.
Let's see. God.
Well, you have microphones and guitar pedals that are taped together for sure.
Yeah, I've got guitar pedals where like the little door where the battery goes, I lost it, so this tape. My tambourines have been glued back together. I've got some microphones, some older microphones that are kind of taped together. Yeah, I don't really think about it because I actually do it a lot.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff here. I mean, it's just cobbled together. I mean, tape, zip ties. Zip ties are a big thing. And, I mean, everything from, glue, zip ties, tape, Velcro even. There's a lot of stuff. And also things where Billy takes random bits of other stuff and puts them together to make the stuff that he needs. A lot of, stands and clamps and all kinds of stuff like that. Zaniel Franklin asked, what is a somewhat inexpensive, say $200 to $300 microphone for vocals?
Oh, I would suggest some of the Audio-Technica mics are really good, actually. I mean, it's not like I've done a bunch of A/B testing on this sort of stuff, but overall, I'd say that the Audio-Technica mics, just generally some of the lower range price ones, are actually really, really good. Trying to think if there's anything else I can think of right now. I just know a lot of people have used them. I know that, oh my God, his name just went out of my head. The guy who engineered Dark Side of the Moon, Alan Parsons. is a big fan of Audio-Technicas. Now he's using the ones that are a little bit more expensive, but they're still really cheap compared to Neumann's. So that's probably the first place I would look.
Oh yeah, the people are mentioning basic soldering is crucial.
I was also going to say.
Oh, thank you for the raid sound bites.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it.
Welcome, y'all.
There's also this the Slate ML1. I think that's what it is. They sent me one. Hold on, let me go grab it.
For those of you that just joined us over on Twitch, Billy is a professional mixer, producer, composer, engineer, and he's over here today just doing a Q&A about all things music industry, studio recording, music in general.
Forgot about this one. So this is, this is the Slate modeling mic. It's the ML1, and I think this goes for like $300 or something like that, or maybe $400. I don't know. It's not much. I don't think. I could be wrong. Hey, can somebody look that up real quick?
Oh, what?
It's the Slate ML1. Now, they made this to use it with their modeling software, which is cool. I like some of it. Like a lot of the modeling, I was just like, like their London strong room, there's like a U87 in there, which is badass and all that. But I actually use this a lot with none of the modeling software on it. It was like, God, it sounded really good for the money. I was kind of surprised. And they're cheap. And it comes with it came in a little box, like a little metal box. And it has like it's got one of these shock mounts. Now, I want to show you a little trick. Because everybody's talking about how the shock mount's like, oh, I can't, you put it on the shock mount and it's got this spinny thing down here and you're trying to spin it. You can't get it on. It's like, here's the trick. This is actually true for all microphones with these shock mounts. You have the shock mount. You take the mic. Don't waste your time trying to spin the thing on the bottom. Spin the mic. Boom. Goes right in. But anyway, the shock mount's pretty good. I think this is a pretty good mic for the price. What was the price, Kit?
I don't know. Sup Mellow just said $2.99 on Sweetwater.
Yeah, I mean they're cheap as hell and they're pretty good. I mean they ain't no Neumann U87s, but I actually A/B'd this with the Neumann U87, and it's like, yeah, the Neumann's got this kind of cool sound to us. It's not like this was terrible or anything compared. It's like, oh yeah, to be honest with you, I think a lot of people wouldn't even know the difference because they don't know how to listen to things. But it's a good mic for the money.
And we said the Slate ML1. Was there another one you mentioned that I should throw up?
Well, there was I don't know the model number. Some of the Audio-Technica mics, the AT mics are really, really good too.
Let's see. There was some.
Soundbite says, I have strong opinions about Slate, in particular their Ravens, but I will hold.
Oh,
I have a couple complaints about Slate. I will say that. Yeah.
Favorite kind of tape: duct, gaffers, scotch, painters, Gorilla.
All of it. A Gorilla tape, boy, Jesus, that's the stuff right there.
I threw in Gorilla. It wasn't in the initial list, but I know it needed to be.
Rick has a mixing question. I do have a mixing question. Oh, somebody was asking about a console, mixing on a console, and I missed that, answering that.
It was a different console, but yeah, go on.
No, it was way earlier. It was like 30 minutes ago. So Rick says, I do have a mixing question. How does Billy approach a song with a quiet intro and loud main section where the signals are hitting the two-bus chain? Okay, so good question. Basically, you're talking about approaching a mix when there's like quiet sections and loud sections. If I've got that, I start mixing on the loudest section first. I find the loudest section of the song because you don't want to start mixing and then you get into it, you get that loud section and you start crushing the mix bus and you're like, oh my God. So what I do is I always start on the loudest section first and I just kind of get that section sounding really good. I mix songs. In most cases, I don't mix a song like I just started and I start working on the mix. I pick sections of songs and I loop them and I mix. And I kind of look at when I'm mixing a song, to some degree, I look at each section of the song almost as if it's a separate song. Now, with my productions, God knows that's true because sometimes I have completely different drums in the verses and the chorus and just stupid stuff, right? But even with a regular person that makes songs in a sensible sort of way, like looking at the different sections and working on those sections is really important. And then I'll automate certain things. Like, for instance, let's say I have a really loud chorus. I'm going to mix that. And I'm going to get that kick drum pumping and, make sure there's a good click in the kick drum. But in the verses, I might automate the click, which is usually like 4K or somewhere around there. I might automate that down a little bit. Maybe on the snare reverb, I'll back off the snare reverb on the verses just a little bit, or maybe I'll switch up reverbs. Maybe it's like a big gated reverb in the chorus, and on the verses, that kind of turns down a lot. And maybe I put a little bit more of like a longer decay room on the verse, stuff like that. But always start with the loudest section first, and then as you work backwards to the quieter section, you might be going like, oh man, it's not really hitting the two bus the right way. It doesn't sound the same. I've kind of got a weird way of mixing where I kind of have an instrumental master and a vocal master. I'll automate the threshold. And I got compressors on the instrumental and the vocal master, and then they all go into a main master with another compressor. It's kind of complicated. But sometimes, especially on vocals, I'll automate the threshold of the vocal bus compressor for the quieter sections. After I get the loudest sections, I go back and I bring down the threshold so that even on the quieter sections, it's kind of bumping that just a little bit. So I'm getting some of that effect in there. So I kind of work backwards from loudest to quiet.
Have you ever listened to your mixes on a phone? Do you have any good tips on making your mixes so you can hear the bass guitar better? So many people are listening on their phones nowadays.
Yeah, well, it's good to listen on the phone, although the funny thing is the phone will trick you into thinking everything sounds good. I don't know why it works that way. But for bass, I concentrate a lot on the mid-range and distortion or saturation. And this is something I picked up from working on 808s and rap music, because there would be some times where you couldn't hear the 808 at all on smaller speakers or earbuds or a phone or something like that. So I found that if I can either find, it depends on the 808, some mid-range in there, or with an 808, usually a little bit of distortion in there, which I would actually normally accomplish through compression, not distortion, by doing super crazy fast attacks and releases on a compressor with a high ratio. And that'll actually create some distortion. Then the 808 becomes, you hear that distortion. At least it's got some sort of representation in there. But if it's a bass guitar, mid-range is bass guitar's best friend. Like, usually I want to get rid of like that 400 hertz area. I don't want any of that in there. But I'm going to really work on the mid-range. There's actually a Universal Audio plugin that I really like for mid-range. Let's see if I can find it here real quick. I can never remember the name of it. Give me just a second here. It's
Well, while Billy's looking for that, y'all.
Oh, I already found it.
Oh, well, make sure to hit like, all of y'all on YouTube. Like this live stream for us. And, all of y'all over on Twitch, please give us a follow. Make sure in both platforms to check your notifications, hit the bell over on YouTube so you know when Billy's released a video or gone live.
Okay, so it is, oh my God, I just lost it again. Okay. Okay. Whoops. Okay. Oh, yeah, let's go to, okay, so here, there's two versions of this plugin. It's a Universal Audio, and here's the one that's kind of comes with, if you get Universal Audio, this is, I think, just the built-in one that comes with it. It's all about this guy right here, this mid-range. This is a weird EQ. It's the Helios or however you say it. And this sucker here, like on bass, like I will, on bass, I'm either 700 hertz, 1K or 1.4, and, I'm boosting it here. And this sucker, man, for mid-range is amazing. And then here's the more expensive version, which I still actually haven't even used yet because I keep just using the other one because that's what I'm used to. But you could really do it with anything, like you could do it with any kind of EQ, but the mid-range is where you're going to find it. And then I'm always like, distorting a bass. Like, actually, let me pull up another one here. Another trick is, oh my God, here. You're going to laugh at me. SansAmp. So this sucker here is great for bass. It's basically like a really crappy amp modeling thing, but it's great on bass. The trick is to understand what these knobs actually mean. So you got preamp here, right? Which everybody knows what preamp is, like pushing the gain. But buzz, punch, and crunch actually relate more to the frequencies. It took me a long time to figure this out. It's adding different types of like distortion, but it's kind of focused on crunch is more high end, punch seems to be mid range, and buzz is low end. Once I figured that out, I was like, oh shit. And then you've got drive and then lows and highs. That sucker there, man, on electric bass is amazing. And that'll help it stand out in smaller speakers. So
That's actually kind of relates to a question from way earlier from Barkful asking, do you use any amp sims?
oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've got some amps, but I don't really have any one in particular that I like. Although, I'm going to swing back to Universal Audio. Let's see, what is it? It's under harmonic. Their Marshalls are really good. I was actually kind of surprised by these. They're just kind of basic, but my God, I really like these a lot. So, but I also use, hold on. Oh. Switch over to this guy in just a second here. Now, I know I've shown this before. I use it all the time. And it's this. Where is it? Oop. Oh, there it is. Hold on. Get the light on. Okay. So this. Hold on. Let me get my focus. Oh, my God. I'm getting there. Don't laugh at me. Okay, it's an amp simulator, but not a plug-in. It's this thing right here. This is a Rockman sustainer made by Tom Scholz. Somebody yelled at me about saying it wrong. And he made these like in the 80s and 90s. And I don't really like it for like distortion, but for a clean sound, I use this thing all the time. It's just a little solid state thing I plug in. It's got 2 different settings on it. It's got a compressor built in. I'll use this all the time instead of an amp. I just like the sound. I got it in a pawn shop, in the 90s, and I didn't like it, and it sat on the shelf, and then I pulled it back out a few years ago, and I was like, oh, man, I like that. That's why you should never sell gear, ever, because you never know. You might later on come back and go, oh, man, that thing sounds really, really good.
Slight change of pace. What advice would you give to somebody who's thinking about pursuing a career in audio engineering or production? I know, right?
That's a tough one because nowadays it's hard to make a living at that. I would say the best thing is to be very diverse. Make sure you can do multiple things, like multiple genres. Try to do everything that you can. Learn how to engineer, mix, and produce and write. Learn how to play some instruments. Also, make sure that you are you want to be an owner of things. Like just as a straight up engineer is really hard. You get paid as an hourly worker. You get paid and that's it. If you're producing, you can become a part owner because you're going to either get, producer royalties, which you don't really make much off that anymore, but you might get like some publishing and stuff like that. I think to really make any kind of money, you have to co-own stuff. And you also have to, the thing I figured out, I've had a studio since some sort of studio in a basement. I've spent most of my life sitting in a damn basement. I have worked at bigger studios, but I'm almost exclusively, most of the time, worked in my own home studios, which are always in basements. And in the early days, I marketed the studio. Oh, I got the studio for cheap, blah, blah, blah. And then people started learning about me. But there was a certain point where I realized, especially as more people started getting home studios, is like, studio schmudio. I started marketing myself. I started thinking like, it's not really about the gear. Like, oh, I've got this many rooms and this many mics. Like sometimes that's important, yes. But what people are hiring me for is me. Like what is Billy Hume doing? What does Billy Hume bring to the game? In my case, it would be like I've got great hair, right? No, I'm only kidding. But make sure that you are standing out from the crowd. Like, make sure you got the gear, make sure you're competent, make sure you can do different genres, you can do all these different things. But remember, people are going to hire you because of who you are and what you bring to the game, and that there's a real value there, and that they could go work with somebody else that has a better studio and maybe is cheaper, but it'll never sound as good. And you just got to be really, really good. I know that's a very vague answer, but the world is weird today. It's hard to make a living. And you just got to make sure that you are really good and that you stand out, and that what you're actually selling is yourself as a music creator and facilitator.
Yeah, Ray Gun Radio Star says, lean into what makes you weird.
Exactly.
And weird, or, what makes you stand out from your competition. What can you do or bring to the table that other people can't?
Yeah, I mean, I've got friends who are engineers that know way more about engineering than I do, and they'll have all these tricks. And I still haven't really got into the mid-side miking thing yet. I was actually watching a video about it, and I was like, yeah, I should learn more. There's so many things. I know guys that are just really great engineers, but I can write and I can sing and I can come up with great vocal harmonies or arrange harmonies. And even though I'm not a great musician, I know how to make a part work or how to direct somebody how to do a part. I'm also not afraid to stand my damn ground because I have a strong opinion about things. And I will stand up in front of anybody and tell them, and then sometimes people want that. People need somebody. Sometimes people need somebody to be in control. And that was the thing I started really realizing, people are hiring me for my opinion.
Let's see. When you're choosing speakers and headphones to do your mixes on, do you like to be analytical and not very emotional so you can just focus on work more? Or do you look for an emotion in the system, I guess?
Well, I'm using... Here, let me turn on this again. Let's go over to the gear cam here. Okay, let me see if I can get a good shot here. Let me get the focus a little better. So right here at this studio, and I got to go grab these other speakers. Let me tilt this up a little bit. So I've got, let's see, I've got these Haflers. Those are the big ones there. So those are are those 8 or 12-inch speakers? I can't tell. And there's a big subwoofer down there, right? As you can see next to it, I've got these Yamaha NS10Ms, which are very mid-rangey. There's not much low end. They have, both of these speakers have two completely different types of sounds to them, right? And my theory with speakers is that you want to make sure that you've got two sets of speakers that are very different from each other, and then spend a long time listening to them. And then when you're mixing, you're switching between them because they're going to serve different functions to listen to different things. For instance, on my Yamahas, they're great for placing vocals in a mix. Vocals should sound a little bit loud on the Yamahas, whereas on the Haflers, they're always going to sound slightly quiet. And you just learn that. You got to spend a lot of time listening to them. As far as how I chose them, the Haflers I got, and I just liked them. I had bought I've actually got some Atom speakers in the back that are 2 woofers and a ribbon tweeter, and they're very expensive. I just never really liked them. Then I tried out some JBLs, and I don't know. I don't even know how to say it. I just listen to music on them, and I like the way they sound in my room. It might be different in a different room. I also have, and they're at my other studio, and I'm going to bring them back here. I've got a pair of self-powered event monitors. They're PS6s. They don't make them anymore. And I really like those a lot. They sound like a nice kind of hi-fi stereo. So I'm going to bring those. I have them at my other studio, and after I'm done mixing the String Dusters record, I'm going to bring them back here because I'm not mixing down there so much anymore. So it's kind of not emotional as much as what the balance of the different speakers I have is. And I also used to keep a boombox behind me, and I might get back into doing this where I'd have a boombox back behind me, and then I would have that to listen to. Actually having speakers behind you and listening to another set of speakers behind you is actually an interesting trick.
Yeah, Mr. Fox says spending some time with speakers in a good room with music that you already know, there's no real
That's
way
it.
around that.
Just listen to it a lot, and then while you're mixing A/B, you can use this. Let me see if I can pull it up here. You can. There's a lot of ways you can A/B, but this plugin here is a lifesaver. This metric adapter. I don't have anything loaded in now, but basically, like if you see the blue thing here is playing the mix that you're working on, you hit that, and then you can load songs, onto this side. So you can load 16 songs into here, and you can click this button and go back and forth between your mix and a bunch of different songs. So you could load a song that has a lot of low end, or you like the vocals on, or whatever, and then boom, your A/Bing is right there, and you end up putting this plugin as the last. Actually, I got it here, but it should be the last insert on your master fader. So great plugin to check out. It's a lifesaver.
Lisa Chase Wolf had a follow-up question when you were talking about some of those sims. What are your overall thoughts on IR versus sim versus amp?
I haven't used a bunch of IR amp simulator stuff. Like you're talking like the oh my God, what's the name of that thing? Harper, what's that? The very expensive, fancy IR amp rig thing.
I can't remember the name of that. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I haven't used them that much. I mean, they sound pretty good. To be honest with you, Lisa, sometimes I haven't been doing it lately because I switched my rig, but I had these like waves, like these kind of really basic, kind of crappy waves amp simulators, and I actually liked a couple of them. And then in Ableton, it's got these like amp simulator, and like sometimes I like those. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, like kind of going back to what I was saying about, I have these friends that are engineers and they study this stuff and they know it in and out, and they'll tell me all this technical stuff about why. So, and I'm not slamming their technique. There's like some real knowledge there, and there's a process and it works for them. And these guys make great records and they do great work and all that. But I'm kind of a guy. I'm like, what do I got on hand? Oh, I'll use this, or I'll use like, I actually have an actual Sans amp, like the original Sans amp pedal. I'll use that. I've actually been in some situations in Ableton where, I don't know, I'm just kind of feeling weird, and I actually won't use an amp sim at all. I'll just grab like their overdrive little plugin that's got two knobs, and I'll just, I don't really have an opinion about it. I mean, they're all good. I was actually messing around with my old, this thing,
Pod.
started using this recently again. Some of the mid-rangey sounds on here, I mean, it kind of sucks, but it's cool too. Sometimes it's perfect. And the funny thing about electric guitars is that, man, it's like there are certain guitar tones that to me, I just think suck, but they're on hit records. But that style of music, the guitar tones that they're using for that genre are like, that's considered really good. But if I put it on my song, it'd be like, that's a stupid sound. I don't know. Guitar distortion's funny to me because I think it all kind of sucks. Guitars kind of, I think it was Jack White who said something about electric guitars. It's like, actually, they're supposed to kind of suck. They're not, it's like if you actually think about distortion, we think like, oh, distortion. It's like, it's not supposed to distort. I think the earliest distortion from what I read was, I don't know, was it Jimmy Page or somebody that took a razor, or maybe it was the Kinks, and they cut the speaker. And I keep meaning to do this. I don't have a speaker that I'm willing to sacrifice. I'm going to do it in a video. They would take a razor and slit the speakers, and that was the distortion. So if you think about what distortion is, it's actually somebody doing something the improper way. It's over driving it, and now we're like, there's these 30, oh my God, I did this project where we worked at Blackbird Studios in Nashville, and this band had a budget, and we literally mic'd up something like 20 or 30 guitar amps, right? They had a rig that allowed this guy to split his guitar signal with no impedance loss. They got great. It's a great studio. Love Blackbird. But we were being indulgent, so we literally mic'd up like a stupid amount of amps. And there's this one amp in there, I forget the name of it, but it's like a $30,000 amp head or something stupid like that. We're like buzzing, ah! Now the guitar player had a beat up old orange amp and these crappy cabinets. And we went through all these different amps, and then I took it home to mix it, and the best sounding amp was this guy's old beat up orange amp, right? And the $30,000 amp head or whatever it was, I don't know. Whatever, man.
There was one earlier. Do you have more appreciation for somebody that records and mixes on analog consoles versus in the box? And what's your overall overview of consoles in 2025? By the way, great Q&A.
Oh, hold on, Chronic Dream.
Yeah. Here, hit Chronic Dream. Yep.
I'm going to come back to your because that's a good one. That's a good one.
Oh, yeah, we got it. Okay.
I got something to say about that. Hold on. Kit, do not let me miss this one. Hold on, Chronic Dream. What was the question about mixing on a console?
Let's see. Well, do you have more appreciation for somebody recording and mixing on analog console versus in the box? And what's your overall overview of consoles in 2025?
I mean, do I have an appreciation? It's like, I don't know. I mean, does it sound good or not?
Yeah, does it sound good?
I don't.
That's the question.
You know, like I've got this. I got this Ghost console here. Let me see if I can get my camera here pointed at it. And people ask me about this a lot because I'm showing it in videos and all that. I don't actually mix on this thing. Let's go to, yeah. So this is just here for sessions, mainly for monitoring, although it's got mic pre's on it. So I got extra mic pre's because sometimes I don't have enough mic pre's. But I mainly use this for routing and like for my live stream and stuff like that. And also it's a way to bring in, like I've got all this old outboard gear, like outboard reverbs and all that. I got tons of patch bays, but having the board and being able to route it and do it just makes all that easier. I will be mixing some stuff on this because I used to mix records on my other Ghost console at my other studio years ago. But I'm going to be, and I'll do some in the future, but I mostly mix in the box. But as far as having an appreciation, I mean, it's cool. Like when I'll give you an example. When I was at Blackbird Studios working up there a lot, I was in one room that had like this massive API. There's a picture I think on my website where I'm standing in front of it. It's like the largest API console east of the Mississippi. And I actually did a session where we used every channel. And then their A room, they've got this beautiful Neve. So on those sessions, I would use the board for tracking because all those dang mic pre's, right? So, I mean, it's cool, but it's like all I care about is if it sounds good or not, you know? And I think it really kind of comes down to the person's workflow. For somebody, it might be better, you know? And for somebody else who hasn't been doing a lot, they might not know how to do it, so it might not be a good thing. There was a second part to the question?
Just your overall overview on consoles right
now.
now.
I don't know enough about like modern consoles to really say. I couldn't really, so I don't really, like I said earlier in the stream, some people are into gear just because they're into gear, so they study it. I don't pay any attention to gear until I need something. If I need something and I've got a need, I do research, and then I've got my friends who know about this, and I just ask them. And there's a couple guys I just trust, and I was like, oh, well, you just need to get, and I'll just go by what they say because they know they've done the research. I might check out a couple things, but I don't really have an opinion about modern consoles. A lot has changed, and you know they're probably all pretty good.
A quick correction from the Bass God, and then back to Chronic Dream. Bass God says one of the only music history common mistakes that grinds their gears is that the first distortion was actually a black woman, Sister Rosetta Tharpe.
Huh?
Sister Rosetta Tharpe, first distortion. Although distortion in what, I guess, is the question.
Can you write that down?
Yes, I will write that down.
That actually might be a good video. Who invented distortion?
Ooh.
Yeah, well, I want to do the video Who Invented Crunk.
That's right.
But who invented distortion?
But of course, to bring us back to Chronic Dream's question, have record labels gotten in the way during a mix? Yes. Yes, they have.
Oh, my God. I'm so glad I don't do major label stuff anymore Plus, they don't pay like they used to, but they're all crooks. So, yes, the thing that would happen most often would be some A&R guy would have to say something about the mix. And I'm like, God, this is so stupid. And I think it was actually Rick Beato who said this to me. He's like, oh, they just want to have some sort of ownership. They feel like they have to say something. Otherwise, their job, they have to prove their worth. I was like, oh. So, and I can admit it now that I did this. There were multiple times where an A&R guy would say, you should turn on the camera, blah, 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 blah. And I'd say, oh, I wouldn't argue with him. I'd be like, okay. So I would just send him the same mix again. Now, sometimes, so I didn't have to lie. I don't want to lie. If they said, like, turn up the keyboards, I'd turn it up like 1/10 of a dB, right? Just basically. You can't really hear the difference. And send it in like, I turned it up, and they'd be like, much better. And I'd be like, thank you so much. Now, what would be frustrating, though, is when they wanted to make a change that I couldn't fake, like an arrangement change or something like that. And there were times on that kind of stuff I would fight for it. But at the end of the day, it's their ass, you know? It's like, hey, okay, this is on you now. But yeah, like record label people, as time went on, it got worse because most of those guys aren't actually music people. A lot of them are lawyers and jackasses. So yeah, happened a lot. I would always try to find some sort of way to sneak my way around it. But yeah, sometimes you can't. So
There's actually kind of a related question, and then we got to get over to Brandon's question. But Ishmael said, now that record labels no longer are putting money into bands much, do you think that the era of musical evolution is over?
no.
I'd say that funding is always needed when it comes to evolution and progression.
Yes. I actually have changed my mind on that because when I did the video about, there were a couple videos with similar titles about music, and I was like, oh, you know, the funding doesn't make a difference, right? What are you going to make the music you make and whatever? But, you know, I've thought about it a lot. And it's an interesting thing because it kind of comes back to Kit says to me a lot, like art takes space. You need space. You need time, which she gives me, thank God. By the way, Kit, thank you. Thank you. She takes care of everything around here. And it gives me more time to create and have space. And I create space in my life. There's a lot of things I don't do in my life. I don't have a lot of friends. I don't go out and play pinochle. I don't
Pinochle.
I don't go. I don't even know what pinochle is. I just like saying it. But the thing is, not everybody is in my position. And I live very cheaply. I live very cheaply, intentionally, so I don't have to work as much. But I got thinking about it. And it was actually a particular artist that got me thinking about it, because this artist writes great songs, is a great performer, but they don't really know how to record. They've never been that good at it. They're not very organized. And they need to hire engineers, producers, and mixers. They're so talented. And they've had a couple major label deals. And when that happened, I was able to make money where I could dedicate a whole freaking month or two to just working on some songs with them. And they could be at the studio every day. And then that went away. And now it's like they can't really afford me so much anymore, if they can afford me at all. And there's other people they could hire, but they're not going to get that level of expertise. So I got thinking about it, and it's like, yeah, it's really affected it. There are people out there who are doing it anyway. Like, I'm lucky to be in a position where I've been buying gear for so long. I know everybody thinks I'm rich. I am not. I've just been buying gear and not selling anything for decades. That's why I have all this crap, and I've taken care of it. But,
Mostly.
Huh?
You've taken care of it mostly.
Well, mostly. Except for the guitar I threw at somebody. But anyway. But a lot of people are not in that position. And yeah, computers with the software and all that, thank God it allows a lot of people to do things. So yeah, it has had an effect. Am I getting off track here with the question? What was it again?
Oh, I missed the about, now that record labels aren't doing that, do we feel like innovation and growth and all of that kind of stuff, that there's not going to be the space for that because it costs money?
Yeah, I mean, I just think people are finding their own ways to get it. It does get in the way. and it has stopped some of it for some people. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of people out there doing stuff.
I will say this too,
And hold on, and Brandon, I'm going to get to you in just a second.
we got to go do Brandon's, but I was going to say the cost has also lowered. So I mean, we don't have that kind of investment in artists that we used to have, and there are some times where that really just kind of kills things. But on the other hand, the cost to get into the game and to promote yourself and to record and do all of that has also lowered. So
Oh yeah, I mean there's a trade-off, but I think the cool thing is that you can do it yourself, and music is in a place now where genres don't matter so much. I mean, I'm going to swing back to King Gizzard and the Wizard Lizard. Who the hell else? And there's no way 20 years ago or 30 years ago a band could do the crazy stuff they do, switching genres and doing all that, and have a freaking career, because they would have to be on a label. That's the only way. And a label would never sign an artist that switches up their genre every album, but they can do it. So, it's a trade-off. Brandon asks, can you listen to lo-fi, possibly amateur indie music without getting irritated?
no,
Well,
no, he can't.
well, it depends. If they call themselves indie, I'm probably going to be irritated as hell, because sometimes, oh my God, you've opened a can of worms here, Brandon. It really bothers me when people have this attitude like, we're indie, so we're going to intentionally sound shitty. It's like, what the hell? In a weird way, it makes me think of, I hated most 90s rock, because there seemed to be this attitude with a lot of bands, and I'm talking about not some of the bigger groups, but a lot of the local bands I was working with had this attitude like, we don't do guitar solos because we don't want to be proud, or we don't want to show off. I'm like, why wouldn't you want to show off? You got a great guitar player. He's a great guitar player, but he doesn't do any solos because we're tasteful. The fuck? What are you talking about? But there does seem to be like a thing with, I'm indie, and then people kind of go out of their way to sound bad. It's like, hey, folks, you don't need to go out of your way to sound bad. You probably already sound lo-fi and bad anyway. On the other hand, sometimes there's people who do music that's lo-fi, and it's genius. I'm thinking about Matt DeMarco. Am I saying that right? Matt DeMarco?
Mac DeMarco, I think is his name.
I think that's it. And he's in one of my videos where he was one of those people that was referred to me when I was saying, there's no good new music, and then I heard that guy, I'm like, oh, it's like Shuggy Otis. And I look up these pictures and I'm like, oh, that dude knows what he's doing. He's got these 8-track machines and all that, but he's got some gear, and they're like, ain't nobody with that gear but yet it sounds lo-fi in a very tasteful way, and it's very laid back, and I've kind of really fallen in love with his music, and that is not irritating at all. I really like that a lot, but I would say I guess it's indie, and it's lo-fi, but it's done in the right way. It's not like he's like, I'm gonna make it sound shitty. He's just kind of recording. I don't even know how to say it. Like,
I like Raygun Radio Star's comment here. I think good art makes bad shit good, and bad art makes good shit bad.
Yeah, I'll go with that. But yeah, so yeah, I think it depends on where going back to Brandon's question, can I do it without being irritated? It depends on where they're coming from. And there's a certain pretentiousness to a lot of indie rock people who are like, oh, I'm indie and we're going to sound bad and we're not going to try. And it's like, But then there's the people who do it and it sounds that way because that's the best equipment they got and they can't help themselves. And they kind of don't sing great because they just don't sing great, but there's this emotion there. And then it's amazing. But when people intentionally sing bad, it's just stupid. Anyway, that's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. That's what I'm saying. That's my opinion. Whew.
Mr. Fox wonders, hey, Billy, can you tell us a few of the Little John songs you worked on so that I can blast them right now? Did you...
Put your hood up!
Put your hood up!
Put your hood up! Motherfucker! Boy, I did not work on some of the bigger... Because he wanted me to go down to Miami to record, and he wanted me to move down to Miami for 9 months, and it ended up being a year.
And that was when we had young kids
Well,
too.
yeah, we're starting to have kids, and I didn't want to say no, so I just told him a stupid price, and he said, "All right." He knew what was up. But I worked on, Put Your Hood Up, and a bunch of songs. I mean, most of that album. It's the one where they're wearing the waders, like he's got the rebel flag, and he's wearing like fishing waders or something like that. The big album that had the one that went platinum, I got a credit on that because I engineered some stuff. I engineered a bunch of stuff that didn't end up on the previous album, and then I think John Fry mixed it, but I still got a plaque. So it was like I don't know the names of the songs, but a bunch of stuff off the Put Your Hood Up, but definitely Put Your Hood Up. That song, because there's like 128 vocals on that chant. Put your hood up. We stacked it. We stacked that sucker, and a bunch of songs off that. So Mark Lorite,
Marcel Ozara.
Yeah. So how do you set up the Alesis wedge for vocals? So he's talking about. I don't know if I can get it here in the camera shot or not. Oh, actually, go to the side camera. Talking about this. That is a cheap outboard digital Alesis digital reverb, which I actually used on a lot of those Little John records. It's just the Cedar Room. That's about the only thing on there I really used. And I've got it coming through the board. That's why I got this board in here. It just makes I could do it on the patch basis, easier on the board. The funny thing is, like, I love that reverb. It's actually got a lot of great settings on it. But that Cedar Room is the crap, or the shit for vocals. That's it. Cedar Room. That's all I got to say on that one.
I need to ask, how long are we supposed to go today?
Yeah, I probably need to stop. I just like gabbing.
I know. It's been fun.
I actually need to do a phone call with Danny Boone from Rehab to talk about possibly doing an album. We'll do a couple more questions.
Absolutely. Where'd my list go? I keep clicking around.
Yeah.
My computer's starting to get sad.
Have you heard of the indie rock band Little John from the 90s? No, I have not. There's a bunch of Little Johns out there. There's actually a Little John drummer from Atlanta, but we call him John Roberts, but him and Little John are friends. We all know each other, but there's that Little John, then there's the other Little John. So
I've got, a few microphone questions, but I kind of feeling like, oh, my computer just went blank.
Yes, that is a Digio 1. Right sound. I did a lot of great records on that thing. Great unit, 16-bit, and we made some good records on that.
Okay, well, I'm crashed. So
you crashed.
Yep. So you'll have to find your own comments to answer because my computer.
Just restart the computer.
Well, I'm working on it.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Shop Boys. Yes, I did Shop Boys Party Like a Rock Star. I played guitar on that and mixed that. That's a whole other story.
God, I got to call Bingo.
Yeah, you need
actually.
to. Right, I think we're still owed royalties on that. That's a whole other story. Still dealing with lawyers and shit on that stuff right now. Let's see. Your neighbors are currently putting their hood up involuntarily. I got to tell you, when I first started, because we did put your hood up real early on, like when I started working Little John. I'm such an idiot. I'm like, why is he doing a song about working on his car? Like, you put the hood up, and he's gonna do the alternator, and then it took me a while to realize what he was talking about. I don't know.
The reason that I've had this crash is not because I crashed. It's because you didn't plug in my charging cable.
I did plug in your charging
It
cable.
wasn't plugged in all the way.
So let's see. Are there any other questions I need to get to? Oh, I see Saxon 7 in here.
I mean, there's a sad. Joelle was asking about, have you ever worked with a band where they're unsigned, unknown, and that were really great? And did the band go anywhere with their music after that? And I was talking about how tragic it is that it happens so often.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there that people just don't even hear.
Mm.
And, I just feel like the main thing with this is to not quit. Like, it's tough. I mean, I get it. I I got into music to be an artist. I wasn't trying to be a mixer producer. I'm swinging back to doing my own music now, but God dang, man, a lot of times I cried and thought I was going to get a record deal or go to New York and meet with some labels, and you're thinking like, yeah, and then you come home and nothing happens, and like, oh my God, and the bands that broke up, and then the bands I worked with that were really good, and for various reasons it didn't work out, and probably most of the stuff I've worked on is like that. Like, people see my discography and they're like, oh, wow. Like most of the stuff I worked on went nowhere. And I've got a room back here with shelves of hard drives and then reels of tape and then boxes and boxes and boxes of ADAT tapes and then CDRs. We were backing up onto CD-ROMs and DVDs and all that. And I've got thousands and thousands of songs that nobody's ever heard that people paid a lot of money for, either scraping up savings or getting people to invest. And some of it was really good. And then, I don't know, God, you're going to make me all depressed here, but there's sometimes I go back there and it's like this back room back here. It's like this vault of people's dreams that are just sitting there. And, and I've actually had a couple people hit me up about trying to retrieve it. And some of that stuff I can't even retrieve if it was done on AIT tape. I need to talk to Jason Kingsland about this. There might be a solution to get some of that stuff off because we're backing up to AIT tape. I don't even know where some of the reels of analog stuff is at anymore. But, now that I'm working on my own music, I have those feelings again because I'm working on my album and I'm like, oh my God, what if I put out and nobody pays attention? What if it goes nowhere? But I'm going to do it anyway. It's like we create and we make the music and we do the things that we love. Hopefully some people pay attention. But I feel like it's better to do it even if it doesn't turn into a hit or make you money than to never do it, because you don't want to be laying on your deathbed and going, God, I wish I'd done that. Because in the end, we all fucking die, and it all fails. Like somebody once said to me, like, realize they all fail. The Beatles broke up, right? They kind of failed in a way. And it's like, oh, I didn't think about that. Everything comes to an end. So while you're on the path, you might as well do it. Like, what else are you going to do? Make hush puppies? I mean, So, yeah, a lot of groups like that I worked on and good music that never saw the light of day. On the other hand, there's a lot of good music that did see the light of day, and then millions of people don't know anything about them. So,
Hey, say hey to PayPal.
Hey,
Popped
PayPal,
in
what's
over
going
on Instagram.
Yeah.
Andy. This was a total shift. Raygun Radio Star asked, do you have like a closet to Narnia? Do we? I don't know. I should ask the kids.
No, but I've got these gummies. I got these gummies that'll make you think you have that. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, and earlier I was starting to say we do have several questions regarding microphones. I think you should do a deep dive on microphones, because we typically get a lot of questions about using microphones for different things. So, obviously that's too broad a topic.
Yeah, we did that. So the deep dives are things I do on Patreon. They're Patreon-only live streams for people that are on my Patreon. And we did one about mic pre's. Somebody said, hey, can you just go through all your mic pre's? And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. It actually was really good for me to do because, like, oh, yeah, I know my mic pre's. But once I got on there and I went through every mic pre that I own and using the same mic, and I think I was playing acoustic guitar. And it was kind of, people were asking questions, so I was kind of going through some stuff. It's like, oh, wow, I never really thought about that, And it was interesting. I recorded the same guitar part. We went through every mic pre, because sometimes I feel like, well, how much difference do the mic pre's make, really, And it's like, oh, man, it was a really cool test to do. A lot of people have been asking about microphones. I don't have any ribbon mics, so maybe I need to get hold of a couple, but I would like to get one and then maybe do a deep dive on the microphone thing, because that would be a really cool thing to really dive into. And those live streams will go for hours, but it'll be focused on one little thing.
Sup Mello was saying those songs you've worked on your live streams, I'd pay for. Y'all will have the opportunity.
Yeah, it's getting there. I'm trying to get my album done. It's getting there. I ended up, the song called Poison, which has been in a lot of my live streams, and the video I did called my unique secret production techniques, where I talk about sampling, which had a lot to do with the sample song contest. So anyway, I had Darren Stanley come in and redo drums on that, and I did an 8-hour live stream where he came in, and Darren is like a really wacky drummer, right?
That was a fun live stream.
Oh my God, it was a great live stream. But every time I gave him these instructions, I said, hey, Darren, I want you to play this. And I got like 20 drum takes. And every time he played it, he didn't do what I asked. It's like, I think he thought he was, but then he'd go off in this weird direction to go somewhere. So I spent hours. Oh my God. I finally got it done last night because every single take was genius, even if it was the wrong thing, where I would be sitting here going like, should I change my guitar parts to match his drum part? Oh my God. So that song's done. So yeah, eventually, thanks Mello. Yeah, that was a long live stream, but it was entertaining as hell. But yeah, I'm going to put out I got a single I got to put out soon. There's just so much to deal with. And I do want to mention, I know that some people offered to help me with some of my stuff, with the YouTube channel and all that. And then I went on vacation. We are getting back to you. It's all coming together. It's going to get there. So,
trying to find the live stream with Darren. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, so once again, guys, hit like on the live stream video. Make sure that you're subscribed over on Twitch. Please give us a follow. Sub if you can. That'd be amazing. Remember, we do have a Discord. You can join us over there. I've been trying to keep up. I've been sucking at Discord lately, but thankfully I have Casey who's helping me out over there.
Thank God for Casey and Kit. I keep getting on Discord trying to do something, but maybe I'm just an old man. I get confused and lost, and I can't keep with... thank God there's people going there and doing things. There's cool stuff going on.
Yeah, y'all are
there.
having some cool conversations over there.
Okay, 2 questions. Accidental Achievements on Instagram says, what is the best way to limit digital saturation when mixing in the box? I don't know what digital saturation is. Never heard of that. Now, you might be talking about clipping and stuff like that. I don't know about digital saturation. I like saturation. I have plugins. I add saturation to things all the time, but I don't know. I think, but what you might be talking about is distortion in working in the box on the computer. And typically people are basically they just got all their volumes up too much. They start a mix and they start with their faders up here. All I can say is when you're starting a song or starting a mix, start with your faders way low and work up from there, because people are typically overdriving, like they're sending to a bus or sending here and they're running and they're actually limiting and clipping without realizing it because they're not monitoring it the right way or they're not recognizing it. That happens all the time. Basically, it's got to keep digital clipping, just keep your levels low. Don't record too hot. I like recording hot levels, but you got to realize if you're recording a hot level and then you run into a plugin, you start boosting that EQ, you're going to start redlining the plugin. So turn down your input. You don't want to redline. And then when you're mixing, bring those faders down. You can always turn up at the end, but you can mix yourself into a corner by having everything too hard, loud, and then you get to the end, you're like trying to back everything off, and just start low. That's the main thing. Just really watch your levels. There was another one here I wanted to address.
Hey, Technique.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So where is it?
Oh, you're talking about the Found Sounds?
Okay, so Technique 74 over here on YouTube says, have you ever done work with found sounds, taking samples of ordinary things and making music out of it? Tape loops back in the day, much easier now. So I don't know if you're aware, Technique, but I actually had a live stream several months ago, and I was talking about some little cymbals and some other stuff, and somebody said, why don't you sample that? And I was like, I got to end the live stream. And they're like, well, you got a microphone there, just sample it. And I was like, oh, and I sampled it. And then I spent the next 2 hours just sampling shit. And then somebody suggested, I forget who it was, they said, why don't you do something where you make a bunch of samples, give them away, and let people make a song out of it, which is why I had the sample song contest. So I did a live stream, and I sampled flower pots, a glass tube, springs, a ball bearing in a flower pot. God, I just weird stuff, just stupid, dumb things, right? A trash can, banging a trash can, things like that. And I gave all the samples away on my Patreon for free. And then people submitted songs. We ended up with like what 40-something submissions.
44, I think.
Yeah, and we played one today on the opening screen, the Butt Bell song by Soul Machine. And that was inspiring. Like, it totally blew my mind, some of the sounds people came up with. So yes, we do that all the time. There's going to be another sample song contest at some point in the future. Don't know when, but yeah, we're going to do that. If you go back on my YouTube channel, on the live stream, you'll see, I can't remember what they're called, but there's the stream where I make the samples, and then there's the stream where I play all the songs that people submitted, and then there was a third one, because there's so many, where I award the winners. So, but the one you might want to check out is the one where I'm sampling it, because it got ridiculous, where we're pouring BBs in a glass tube and just wacky stuff. So
I found some links, but I'm frozen.
Oh, you're frozen again?
Yeah.
Okay.
This one's just because my computer starts to get cranky if we do this long
Yeah,
enough.
Lisa's talking about a mix down competition contest. That was another idea, where we put out a bunch of stems and let people mix it. That's another thing I'm thinking of doing. All this stuff will happen. Just please keep in mind that I can only do so much. There's videos I'm working on, and I actually need to make a living, so I have to mix too, which I need to end the stream so that I can do a phone call, and then I got to get back to mixing the infamous String Dusters, because they gave me 20 songs to mix. Whew. So I've been working on that. It's all going to happen. You just got to stay tuned. But anyway, I do think I need to end the stream, because I gotta move on to other things.
Yeah, I think I finally got Darren's thing posted.
Oh, did you get Darren's? Oh yeah, Kit just posted up the link to the live stream we did with Darren Stanley, which I think is 7 or 8 hours.
Yeah, I see more questions coming in. I don't think we can get to them, I'm afraid. And as far as the live streams that Billy was talking about, where he records the samples and all of that, you'll just probably have to go onto YouTube, click on the live tab. You can find the live streams. Also under videos, there are a few edited versions of a couple of the live streams that you can check out.
Yeah. I will quickly answer David's question. Do you hear a difference in sound quality in cables, power cables, speaker cables, interconnects? Okay. Definitely with good guitar cables, for sure. And line cables, for my gear, good balanced quality cables. Speaker cables, there's a bunch of BS about that stuff. Just get a thick goddamn cable. There's the famous thing about where they got all these golden ear people together, and they did this blind test where they had these oxygen-free speaker cables and all that. And everybody picked coat hangers between the power amp and the speakers. And why? Because it's a solid piece of metal. The electrons like to go through solid metal. So yeah, but I've never, and don't get me talking about word clock cables. I actually sat with a couple engineers who are like, I can hear the audio quality in word clock cables. I was like, give me a freaking break. Come on, man. But yeah, good guitar cables, sure, But as far as speaker cables, man, just go to Home Depot and get yourself a really thick power cable, like a power cable, and just cut it off and use that. It's nice thick copper cable. That'll be as good as anything out there. You don't need the oxygen-free stuff. You just need something thick. That's it. Copper gets noisy? What's better than copper? Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, all right. I appreciate everybody watching the live stream and participating, asking questions. Casey, thank you so much for your help on the mods here.
Hey, all of y'all that tipped and
yes, thanks so much
did
for the
highlighted
tips.
Comments. Thank you so much.
Harper?
Oh yeah,
Harper?
It's not working anymore.
Oh no, it stopped right. Harper's over here. Thank you, Harper, for helping out.
Saxon 7 lets us know that all their musical success came from playing Pinochle. Y'all, one more time, don't forget to hit like on the live stream. Please sub. hit that notification button if you want to know when Billy goes live or when he releases a new video. He's been working on a big one that's a studio tour. So,
my studio tour video.
We've referenced it a few times. It turned into a bigger project than Billy anticipated, but it'll be pretty detailed, pretty fun. Over there on Twitch, thank you guys for watching. Please hit the follow button. We'd love to have you. And check your notifications if you want to be sure that you get notified. I'm going to throw up the Patreon link. As Billy mentioned, he's been doing deep dive live streams. If you're really interested in going into a deep dive on something that's recording, mixing, or production related, he's been trying to do at least a couple of those a month. And they're available right now to anybody that's subscribed at the $10 level or above. So that's kind of a steal. It will go up later, but for right now, you can get in on that.
And it looks like we're going to raid somebody here on Twitch. So Twitch people, hang on. Casey's going to set up the raid. Everybody, thanks so much. I'll be back next Wednesday. I'll announce a deep dive Patreon stream later this evening. So check on Patreon and on the Discord. I'll put that announcement up later. Everybody, thank you so much. Have a good day. Be good to each other and be unique. Take 2, take 3, take 4, take 5, take whatever.